Microsoft was co-founded his company with his high school buddy, Paul Allen. But now Paul Allen has written a memoir called Idea Man, out this week, in which he not only gives an account of those ideas, he draws a dark portrait of his fellow co-founder and lifelong friend. Quote, "Some days working with you is like being in hell." You describe Bill Gates in very harsh terms. You describe him as being quite abusive. I mean, it's not a pretty picture.
And I felt like when I wrote it, I should just tell it like it happened in an unvarnished way, warts and all.
You know, here he is doing such great work. He's almost a saint now. And it seems like an odd time to write an unflattering portrait of him. When he started the book in 2009, he had stage 4 lymphoma. He was also the shrewder businessman. From the beginning, he demanded a larger share of the company, 60%, and then more. But Allen says he was the one who pushed through the company's big early break, developing an operating system for IBM's first personal computer in 1980.
I think he was always pushing people to work as hard as they possibly could.
You included.
Maybe me more than everybody else.
You describe Bill in this period, and actually throughout, as tough, a taskmaster. You talk about his yelling, screaming.
There was a lot of yelling.
You guys never understood. You never understood the first thing about this.
A 1994 CBS News profile got a sample of Gates's management style, which Allen describes as browbeating and personal verbal attacks.
That's ridiculous. I'm not doing this thing. No. Somebody's confused. Somebody's just not thinking. I mean, there's no way.
We'll figure it out.
You had to fight back intensely to stand your ground and make your position and your convictions expressed.
But he didn't like to back down. So these fights would go on, you said. They could go on for hours.
Oh, yeah. That's right.
We're just screaming at each other for hours?
And it's exhausting. It's exhausting, but that was Bill's style.
Allen was miserable and felt he was being marginalized. And then things got a lot worse. He got cancer. One night he passed by Gates's office and overheard him talking with Steve Ballmer, who'd been hired to help run the company. What were they saying?
They were basically talking about how they were planning to dilute my share down to almost nothing. And it was really a shocking and disheartening moment for me.
And you were sick.
Well, I think I was still probably in the middle of radiation therapy.
He burst in and interrupted them. He says they were trying to cut him out and rip him off.
And of course, Steve came over to my house later that night to apologize.
He did?
He did.
But Bill didn't come.
No, he sent Steve.
He sent Steve. It wasn't Steve. He sent Steve.
Well, Steve's the one who came.
Shortly after, Allen left. It's hard to feel sorry for him. He was 30, cured of cancer, and owned nearly a third of Microsoft. And once he retired, he devoted himself to eradicating global disease and improving education.
Let us summarize what we have found about Bill Gates. 1. He tried to rob. If Paul has not heard his conversation with Steve Ballmer that day, Bill Gates would probably have robbed Paul's shares from him. We can see from here Bill Gates is really ruthless. Even to a friend who has helped him started Microsoft, as he later admitted Paul deserved more credit.
We asked Bill Gates for a comment, and while he declined, he has said that the founding of Microsoft was an equal partnership, and Paul deserves more credit than he's often given.
When he knew Paul is struggling with his cancer therapy, Bill planned to reduce Paul's shares to nothing. How ruthless was that? Worse when it's done to a person who was his friend and helped him become successful. 3. He's an opportunist. Clearly he seized every opportunity to make money, even at the expense of friends and someone who had helped him. Can you trust this kind of character to do any good?